Okay, my name is Katie Miller. I'm going to call this meeting to order. The other members of the commission, would you please unmic and state your names for the record?
Warren Lehman, Vice Chairman.
And Courtney.
This is Jessica Willoughby. I'm an assistant municipal attorney.
Deeply to City Council.
Matthew Hurd, Legislative Council Assembly.
Zach Schwartz, Assistant Municipal Chairman.
Liz Edwards, Deputy Election Administrator.
Judy Hines, Municipal Clerk.
And on the phone, we have,
No one.
thank you. Our first order of business is to get through the Canvas worksheet. Who's going to take charge of that?
I will take charge of that.
Thank
So
you.
we are just going to review the processes that we review the envelopes at this point, and then to give you a chance to look at them, and you can track on your worksheet if you would like, and then we'll adjourn the work session, and then we'll reconvene at 5 o'clock for the meeting and do it all again. But then you'll have reviewed it, so it'll help you be faster at making your motions. The first, we did not have any reject code A. So the first one is duplicate ballot voted. This code is used when it's determined that the voter has cast more than one ballot. And code says that a vote by mail ballot shall not be counted if the voter already voted in the election. D. So they all have little notes attached. I have 3 of them. So what is attached is the first ballot that was received and processed and counted, and then you're holding the second ballot.
The second ballot was likely obtained by in-person voting. Otherwise, I don't know how somebody's going to get it.
Yes, as I recall, they were all. Yes, they were all, we received the mail one, and then they all went to a vote center and voted together.
And only the original vote was counted.
The first vote, the
First
first
vote.
ballot received was processed and counted, and these are the tickets.
Thank you.
Yep. So the way the system works is that it's, when these come across, it's outsorted because that voter has already been checked off as having voted. And so then we confirm that the original ballot was adjudicated as good. And then we take the image and stick them in the commission bucket.
I know in the past, we've looked at conditions like age and you know, sometimes people forget. Is there anything, David, look at these and kind of see if there's a pattern?
There might be birth dates on the printout.
There might be birth dates listed on the printout.
I'm not suggesting just because people advance in age, they lose their mental capacity and be self-deprecating, but I guess what I'm looking for is if somebody's intentionally trying to deceive, and I don't interpret these as being that way. So.
I'm guessing it's going to be more time lag between when you're mailed the ballot, you receive it in the mail, you send it off right away. Do you remember whether or not you actually voted? Do you get antsy and run back to the polls?
I think over the years I've heard similar stories, like they voted their first ballot and then a friend says, hey, I'm going to vote, do you want to come with me? I've heard those stories, so. This next code, we had 0 ballots returned empty or containing other materials. We have 19 ballots returned without the return envelope, and we were unable to identify the voter. So these were in either alone or in secrecy sleeves dropped off in the drop boxes. And we looked over the ballots to make sure that we couldn't find a signature or name to identify them.
Or the scribbles weren't legible.
Or the scribbles weren't legible. There's 19.
And the code in here is for the Dropbox further down.
Correct. And Mead has joined us at 2:10.
Apologies.
These are the
We were able to do 2 of them. They wrote legibly enough.
But no sense of wrongdoing here, or something, just being very careful to make sure.
No sense. Yeah, I think we can sort of tell that.
Cindy, what does the invitation D/P mean?
Dropbox.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, if, if somebody comes to City Hall to vote on April 1st and he already received a ballot, why did we give that person a ballot?
The databases are static, so it knows who is eligible to vote. We don't capture that information until it comes across the sorter. The first ballot coming across the sorter checks that voter off in that database as having voted. And so then it immediately outsorts the second ballot to,
Right, so during processing, we catch it,
yeah.
but we don't catch it at the polling booth.
No, because they're not connected to the internet. They're not, it's a static database as of 30 days before election day.
Interesting. Yeah, and I guess the only other thing I note for other members of the commission, I grew up in a state where you could ask for an absentee ballot, you could get it, vote it, and mail it. It had to be in by election day, but the law said that if you were actually in the state, you still have to vote in person. So some states kind of encourage you to vote twice if you happen to have your plans changed. So at any rate, it would probably help if we could at least let the places where you could come get a new ballot know if the ballot's already been received and say, Mr. We already got your ballot, so we can go out and take the second. Would that be a hard thing to do?
I can't answer that right now. It's not something we've really thought about. It would probably require us to Zoom a thumb drive around to every vote center every morning at this point, so that we're not connected to an internet.
Well, no, I understand that, but also we have in the state elections, we do put out who's absentee has been received, because the campaigns pick up that information every morning and call people who they think are going to vote for their campaign and say, hey, your absentee isn't in yet, okay? And so I'm surprised that we don't put out the absentees received.
We do.
We do,
The
but we
email-
just don't look at them ourselves.
Right.
Okay.
Where's the speaker? Jamie, just for my education.
Sure.
E1 says that there's an envelope return, so we can't identify the voter. This has the voter's name, and so he says he lost the envelope. Does that not matter?
So,
I think you can't read the name.
yeah, we weren't able to, it wasn't legible enough for us to figure out who exactly it was.
I can read it. Does that matter?
I mean, if
No,
you
I mean-
think you can, we will try to look it up.
No, would you mind looking at it?
So this is the witness. Witness, David,
And
and
so
then this is the
Sarah.
voter.
Okay,
In terms of D, because you, so our decision really is to recommend or confirm your decision, which is not to count the second ballot, not to disqualify them or send them to,
On those three.
yeah,
Yes.
got it, thanks.
Um, So based on the witness signature, I'm going to ask the staff to look up a name and see if they can make that work.
I mean, it looks like the voter probably has the same last name as the witness.
Can Amy
Yeah,
take
I
this?
was.
And then maybe for the other 18, 17, 18.
All under E?
E1.
We had no east. Right, like.
So did we
David Duffy.
count them or not count them, or?
That's the wife, the Sarah.
For those that are still in your hand, we couldn't read a name. They were not, a name is not provided. They were dropped off as is in a Dropbox.
Yeah. I lost my envelope for 3 days before I could find it because I had poured coffee on my ballot. Had to dry it out, it got separated. So I was almost one of these people. So you counted once where you could find a name.
I'm sorry?
You counted where you found a name, but not where you couldn't find a name. Is that right?
Correct.
Figured out 2 of them.
And all of them were Dropbox, so none of them, say, had their identity approved, say, at an election office, but somehow didn't. Right? Okay.
I'm asking for a set of instructions, but somebody who does lose their envelope could go to a vote center and get an envelope. And so if they were to take a ballot to an envelope and say, I lost my envelope, they would issue them a new envelope. The next one is in category G. The voter failed to provide identifying information. So in the voter registration, the voter files that we got from the state, This voter's condition code is AID, which means nobody has looked at their ID before as of registration. And so they got instructions that instructed them to provide a photocopy of their ID when they voted their ballot. They did not provide a copy of their ID when they voted their ballot, and so they were mailed a cure letter, and they still did not provide us a copy of their ID. And so we are asking for rejection of this one. Amy.
And the envelope's been opened, but nothing else was in there but the ballot.
Correct.
And the
We have to open them.
envelope.
We have to open them to make sure that there's ID inside before we can continue processing.
But probably should have been listening better. The reason for requiring the ID was first-time voter after registering, and then the requirement is you've got to present ID.
Correct.
Right,
It's my understanding if a voter was to register online and no registrar has seen their ID, then they get the condition code AID, and then the first election official that comes across the voters checks their ID. And so we have a special set of instructions. We tell the print and mail vendor, these voters need this specific set of instructions. So we did get instructions with red, we need to see your ID, please provide a copy of your ID. They did not, and then when we got it and saw that they did not, we sent them a cure letter, asked them to send an ID, and they did not.
Just a question. In our state, because we've got automatic registration with your PFD or your driver's license or certain other payments from the government, do we, if they don't come in and prove an ID later on, is their name dropped? Is a follow-up cure letter here saying, hey, you didn't come in and cure on this one, which might be, they were concerned about a candidate and saw that candidate won or lost by so many votes that one vote wasn't going to make a difference, so maybe they didn't come to cure after election night. But do we tell them that this is going to be a problem until they come show an ID in person?
It's my understanding that this situation doesn't happen with automatic registration with the PFD and the DMV. When you go to the DMV,
it should happen with
somebody
PFD,
is
right?
looking at them. And so it's my understanding it's only with the online voter registration, and I don't know what the online voter registration specifically says. The next code is I, voter is inactive, and this code is used when it's been determined that this voter's status and condition code is inactive, and so this code was I as inactive in the voter registration database.
Okay, excuse me, Jamie, would you explain this just a little bit more? This was done in an in-person location. It's got an election official in it, but this person was probably registered somewhere else. Is that what?
When I looked them up in the voter registration database, their condition code was I, inactive.
Right.
And it's my understanding that they are moved to inactive when they haven't voted for 4 years or when they have a felony conviction.
If that was the case, why did we send them a ballot?
We didn't, they walked into a vote center.
So the vote center treats something like that as a quote-unquote question ballot?
Correct.
Yep, okay. But
89.
they wouldn't,
That we sent.
would they helpfully say to the voter, hey, you're listed as inactive, do you have a felony thing, or do you want to re-register as of now? And we'll,
The vote center doesn't know that. They're not on the database because the only people in the database are registered to vote. And so they explain to them that this will register you to vote or re-register you to vote.
okay, and where do we have the vote center? Just at City Hall, or is it?
There's one at City Hall, one in Eagle River, one at the library, two at the Lusac Library, one in Chambers, and then a second one in Old Marston.
Okay, so at the state level, we did it at election headquarters, so we could look up that pretty easily, but
So
at the city level, we
vote
don't.
centers bring those back to me every day. They send the ballots in every day. And when it came to here, I looked at that. I looked at all of the question envelopes.
This isn't a vote center,
No.
but it is a fewer location, right?
Yes. We do not have any reject code K. The next reject code is M, where there's multiple ballots in one envelope. So there was more than one ballot in the envelope, and to the extent possible, if it was, so they were sent a cure letter if it was possible, encouraging them to go back to a vote center and both vote their own ballots. When somebody does this and both ballots are voted in the same way, we will send one ballot through. In this situation, ballots are not voted in the same way, and so we don't know which is whose, and we don't know who else to give credit to.
And was this person called? Does he have a phone number on there? It doesn't show it on the,
That one, I'm not sure.
it says send letter, but there's no follow-up notes.
I think we don't remember if that one was called. They were sent a letter.
Can I have this next one? Are we gonna count this? Give me matches. Yes.
So this is which reject code?
M,
Thanks.
Mary.
In this one, am I noting that there's no sleeve either?
I didn't look at it before.
Yeah, so I don't see a sleeve, and I don't want to see how this person voted, so I'm not pulling it out. But let me ask, if it had arrived with two sleeves, and somebody had written on the front, just to save a stamp even, you know, Deeza, and then Deeza's husband or wife, and the second signature. I don't know if you've gotten that before.
Yes.
Yes, we have.
We put
And
everything-
Yes, we do everything possible to count it.
Okay, thank you.
They put everything back how it
So,
was.
so in this case, it was not just two ballots, but it was also two sleeves. But you did give a replacement ballot?
We sent
A care letter.
a letter.
Got it. Got it.
The next code is MOA. These are voters that were registered outside of the MOA. There were 8 of them, and on the left edge, I indicated where they were registered to vote. And some of them updated in between the deadline of March 2nd and Election Day, but some did not, and this will update their voter registration.
Jamie, the only question I've got about this issue is that when volunteers who are not vote registrars take out voter registration things, say in Canvas and knocking on doors or something, if it's that person's fault that it will get turned in by March 2nd, there's no recourse on the part of the voter, is there?
If it was a registrar situation who didn't complete their section, it's my understanding that the state of Alaska would go with the date they received it.
Right.
But if a registrar was out door knocking and getting voter registrations and filled out their portion, it's my understanding the state would use the date that the registrar dated it.
So if the League of Women Voters sets up a desk at a PTA meeting, but forgets to turn in, whoever's job it was, forgets to turn in these registrations by March 2nd, if they had noted that the PTA meeting was February 25th, you would accept it?
That's my understanding. As a registrar, I always make sure to fill out the bottom portion where I have to put my voter ID number, sign it, and date it, and indicate that I checked their ID.
All right. So is that also, just again, not being conspiratorial here, is that also a way that a person could fake it and collect a whole lot of registrations after March 2nd, but predate them? Conceivably, I guess, but I mean, you're an election official.
I wouldn't do that.
No, I know. You're an election official, which
So
is fine, but
I understand registrars have to take a training with the state,
Right.
and like they have to sign up and take training and with the state and do things.
yeah, they
way
know
the state
they know
trains.
what could send them to jail and what couldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so these people are now registered. The
They
next-
will be as soon as the state gets the yellow floppies. What do you call them? Floppies, yeah.
What does MOA stand for on the reject code?
The voter is registered outside of municipality bank.
Got it.
We are going to skip O and R. We have none of those. This one is T, the voter registered too late. This code is used if the voter registered or updated his or her registration after the 30-day cutoff before the election. And so the date that they updated their voter registration is indicated on the left of the envelope.
There's how many?
There's 4 of these.
Jamie, can I ask a quick question? I know we didn't have any of these ballots, but under O, where it says the voter didn't meet certification standards, is that the same thing as not qualified to vote?
It could. There's 3 boxes on the top of this question envelope here to your right. And so I think once in my life, I've seen one that they checked, one of those where they had not lived and he rejected for one of those reasons. That is what we're looking for there.
Okay, and on this one, we've got a registered 30 days ago and has voted, but not in system, I can't read it, sorry, it's the ink red. Can't read it either.
So the person told the ABC worker that they registered 32 days ago and had their voter ID card, but it was not in their system. And when I looked up their voter registration, they had registered on March 12th.
thinking?
Cheers. Not for short ones. Try this. Just as we tall. I all of a sudden feel very tall.
So that's the one that I read for Katie. It says
Oh, I'm
that
sorry,
they
I didn't hear
registered,
you.
that's okay. They told the vote center worker that they registered 32 days ago and they had their voter ID card, but the worker could not find them in the system. And so when I got this here at the vote center, I looked the voter up and they were registered on March 12th.
Where did they register, do you know?
No.
So, do we know if it was, so we don't know if it was like inside an election office or somebody canvassing in front of cars, grocery?
Yeah, no, that information isn't in for us.
He had a voter registration card?
They had their voter registration card.
And the cutoff date for registration before the election was?
March 2nd.
I'm sorry, Jamie, I was reading while you were talking to Katie.
That's okay.
I apologize.
That was tough.
Yeah, I'm still close. This person did not check any of the boxes at all, is that why it was rejected, or just our records? Maybe they
I
did.
would say that it was, they did the registration or registered.
So, how did this person get a registration card so quickly if that person had only registered on the 12th, do you know?
No.
Okay.
The state of Alaska manages the voter registration database. I have no insight into.
Okay, well, I think every lieutenant governor sitting here at this table has tried to have our election directors work more closely with municipalities, but at any rate, the question I got is because of this, we didn't give that person a chance to cure necessarily. If, and I'm just going to throw this out as a hypothetical, if we had you call this person right now and say, hey, you said 32 days before, it never made it in the database until it was done, you had a registration card. By the way, where did you register? Because if it turns out that it was a state office and something fell through the cracks, or one of our offices and something fell through the cracks, even though our list goes to the state and then comes back to us. It would be a government mistake that disenfranchised the person rather than the person's mistake. And we've tended to rule in the past that if the government makes a mistake, we don't disenfranchise them if we can avoid it. And in this case, I'm pretty sure the facts that you got are right, but it might make sense to just offer your opportunity if they can prove that it should before. That's all I'm saying.
So do you want us to call them now?
I'd recommend it as a workshop thing before we vote tonight, if you can. It'd be great.
I think the law says before the start of the voting session.
Right.
Before 5 o'clock.
Yeah. And it could well be we could verify, where it was. That's all.
Me, actually, I was thinking this is human error somewhere along the line. Not the voter's fault. We
How do we
have
contact
a voter ID card.
There's no phone number.
And so I agree. Can we do that?
This voter did not provide their phone numbers on the form.
Is there an email?
No. These are condition or V reject code. These ballots were received too late. This code is used when a ballot is received after 8 p.m. on election day by email, fax, or one of the vote centers or at the secure drop boxes. So at the vote centers, just as in state elections, they announce that they're closing. They put a worker in line at 8 p.m. and everyone after that votes a question ballot. And then in a similar way at the secure drop boxes, the drop box openers are there prior to 8 p.m. They announce that the drop boxes are closing at 8 p.m. Everyone in line at 8 p.m. They put a drop box worker in the line of cars. Those people are able to put their ballots in, and these were received after 8 p.m. And there's notes on each one indicating where.
They all came from ASD.
They all came from ASD, and they've indicated the time.
How many?
There's 7 of those.
Thank you.
The voters are given a piece of paper telling them that it's too late, giving them given options, and the voter insisted that we take the ballot.
It seems to me that number is quite a bit less than we've seen in the past, but it's just my memory, which I may be mixing it up with another category. But anyway, moving in the right direction, if that's true.
Yeah.
So 8 total.
I think it was 7.
And the clocks or watches of the workers are synchronized right to, what is it, WWV time?
Everybody's phone.
Everybody's phone cell
Yeah,
phones
I
do that
guess,
these days,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Those days are over.
Oh, I don't know, I can give you a whole treatise on what happens with GPS if you don't want to mess with it, but
Well.
I'm not going to bother you. I don't think it happened here. here was a couple who was 1 minute late. Oh my God. And these were all at the same place
Yes.
at Anchor School District? There's another couple. Where is the ASD? Is that out east on Boniface?
Yeah.
So it's, okay, and so they're not necessarily school district employees or anything along those lines? Okay. And only one polling place had that problem?
Only one Dropbox. The next reject code is W. These are ballots postmarked after Election Day. This is when it has been determined that the ballot is postmarked after Election Day, and the municipal code says a vote by mail ballot shall not be counted if the ballot return envelope, if mailed, is postmarked after the date of the election. There are 301 of those. They're here.
There's
I've-
from earliest to latest.
Earliest is on this side and the latest. Okay, let's put in the middle here.
And they're just in stacks of 25.
This is the oldest one?
Correct. That's the newest one. Like, this is most closest to today,
Closest
and
to
that's
today.
closest to election day.
Oh, no, no, it was, how late's the last one?
Okay, well, does everybody want to look at these together?
Sure. That says April 2nd, so that's,
April 3rd.
here's,
Received April, sorry, April 2nd.
yeah, that's the,
And that was
that's the closest to election, yeah.
And then we go to April 2nd. Yeah. April 2nd.
You know what, they dropped them in, they may have dropped them in times, but they didn't ask to have the
Second.
postmark.
Second. Second.
These are the
You know, that's the problem.
That's the problem, the sewing machine.
They dropped them in before midnight.
I was looking for the answer.
That's the receipt.
Thank you.
People have to understand.
Were any of them received on April 2nd?
Here's April 3rd.
Were any of the ones rejected received on April 2nd, even though they might have been canceled?
I didn't look at. There's a
red stamp.
We red stamp the date that we received them.
And I believe April 3rd.
Everything through here is April 2nd.
It's April 3rd, you see. Yeah.
So this one's the start of mail on the 3rd. Mailed on the 4th. Mailed on the 4th. Mailed on the 2nd.
How's that?
Received on the 3rd.
Why is that?
So it's an order that we
Oh,
received.
April 15th.
Postmark day.
It's the order that we were received.
That's,
This was an order.
That one was received the same day it was stamped.
that's it. Here's-
I wonder what people think the results are out.
Do we think we have a reason for that? I brought the numbers from last election. And the last time, there were 269, and this has just gone up. Do we have a reason?
I don't know a reason. The next reject code is W1. These are no postmarked but received after Election Day. The code says you shall not count, a vote by mail ballot shall not be counted if the ballot return envelope, if mailed, is received after Election Day, has no postmark, and the distributor cannot verify the ballot return envelope was mailed on or before Election Day. We took these to the post office, and on the front, underneath our address, the post office indicated what day these items were received in what post code. And there's 3 of those, sorry.
And the post office couldn't explain any of them.
They were all received like on the 8th and 9th. And I think that, well, I know from our own sorter that sometimes jellies and other things make things stick together, so that could be why it doesn't have a postmark.
That's the problem.
Sandwiches were in the fridge.
Just thinking out loud, I know that I didn't go out there to check this year, but on April 15th, there is a post office has a box that receives mail, and then they hand stamp up till midnight or whenever they're closing. If they close at 11, I guess at the airport post office. Is that something that the municipality might try to arrange with the postmaster and say, okay, here's the last post office open on election day. Can you have a box out there and have somebody pick that up and hand stamp them? I look at that batch, and there's probably 200 of them. I'm guessing they mailed them before midnight, but didn't take the time to go in and have them hand stamped, and so of course you did the right thing. You have to reject them. But is that something that you might consider making an arrangement?
Yeah, we have contacts at the post office and we can ask if that can be a possibility.
So there,
So there are just 3 of these in category W?
31.
Oh, I'm sorry.
W1.
W1.
Yeah, sorry, I flipped my page.
Okay, so 2 of them are foreign mail, and one of them had no stamp at all. The one with no stamp at all could have been locally. I have no idea where this person was, but right, yeah, they were all received. So if it's addressed at 519 but received at 52, why? How's that work?
That's just what they
The
wrote down.
voter dropped off, it's my understanding the voter dropped it off at 90052?
Well, that wouldn't make sense with a Canadian stamp or a British stamp.
It's what the post office wrote. I don't, I'm just giving the information the post office gave us.
Right. Okay, so this one could have been mailed from out of the country, could have not been. I mean, you know, the weird thing is that sometimes, you know, foreign governments may not stamp them at the right time. And that might be something that we tell people. What's interesting about this is that the 0052 zip code may be where it enters the system before it goes to you, but obviously these 2 were not posted there, but it's where the U.S. mail ended up coding your zip code. So one's in Kelowna, Canada, which I flew over yesterday, and one's in London. Does it make sense to and the guy in London does not have a witness. The guy in Kelowna does, but no email. Again, just when you do the letter, maybe you say if you're going to vote outside the country. I mean, it's three ballots, and it wasn't a close election in any of the cases, but I guess what I'm really more thinking about is if you post something in a foreign country in time, you might want to do something extra to show that you got it in time. Okay, thanks. At least the one where we have an email, it might be interesting to send that person an email asking if they have any proof. But postmark is the only legal proof, is that right?
I'm told that one section of code can't trump another section of code. And so the code says a vote by mail ballot shall not be counted if the ballot return envelope, if mailed, is received after election day, has no postmark, and the distributor cannot verify the ballot return envelope was mailed on or before election day.
Okay, so given the third clause of the sentence you just read, did we send a cure note to those voters saying we can't, we're going to count it, we're going to certify, the last chance to count these ballots is today. We're going to meet today. If you have any other proof that you mailed it before election day, send it in.
What we did do was take it to the distributor, which is the post office, and ask them if they could determine
if it was mailed on or before.
if they could verify that the ballot return envelope was mailed on or before election day. And
Right.
they gave us the dates of the 8th and whatever else dates were on the 8th and the 9th.
Right, but that makes sense for 2 ballots sent from outside the country. I'm not sure it makes, we don't know where the third ballot was sent from because there was no stamp. So the fact that it got here is miraculous, but sometimes people send things without a stamp and a return address because the post office has no place to ask for money except you.
And we pay those.
Yeah,
They get here.
yeah. And so I guess the question is really on the cure capability, where you've got it, where that third clause. I mean, it could well be that, you know, I'm thinking of the tiny little post office in Florida where I know the postmaster, and the post office has now said don't even stamp those things necessarily, but you know, that woman could remember, oh yeah, he was here because he also sent home a package which we have a receipt for, or something like that. And I guess all I'm saying is that if our cure procedures give them a chance to apply clause 3, did we do it? And the answer is you went to the distributor, but not to the person or who was likely the distributor, which would be the Canadian Post Office or the British Post Office. You went to the closest one that's not going to do anything to help you.
But I think respectfully that clause number 3 is the cure. There isn't, the only cure is, did the post office verify? And that's what the code says, and the code says what it says. And if we don't like it, then we talk about that.
Right. I think we did the best we could with what we had to work with. No, I can't go to the Canadian Post Office and ask them when it was delivered. But and our cure procedures don't address postmark date at all.
Aside from going to the post office.
I'm sorry. Did you get those 3 back? Okay, we are skipping W2. We have 0 unclear postmarks. The next one is the voter is not registered. The code is used when it was determined that the voter was not registered to vote. There are 5 of these, and when I got them, I looked them up in VREMS, and they were not registered. To vote as of 3/2. I should probably change 2 of these to registered too late, because it looks like one of them registered on the 14th and the other registered on the 13th.
What's a shame is that all these are young, except for one of them, are very young voters.
I'm sorry, Jamie, did you say that you're moving 2 of those to a different category?
I am. I am going to move 2 of those to category T on page 2. So the T will be 6 and the X will be 3.
Thank you.
Chair, to me, it looks like we're correct on the 4 of the 5 of them that I've looked at. One of them had a birthday that literally was the 27th, was the 27th of February, and the cutoff date was March 2nd. And it was March 2nd that, I can't remember, March 2nd was a Sunday, right?
Voter registration deadlines are always Sunday. It's always Thursday before, or it's always 30 days before Election Day. And election days are Tuesday, and so 30 days in my history have always fallen on a Sunday. And yeah,
Yeah.
31 days in March. Election's always in April. It's always in April.
yeah. Even when I was in Kenai, it was in October. It was always on a Sunday.
Yeah, no, and
So September, things will move in the
Yeah.
yeah, so that person had 1 business day after that person's birthday. Yeah, okay. I just remember registering to vote on my birthday. Anyway, if their birthday comes after the cutoff date, can they register before, or do we let them, what happens here?
I'm gonna look to the attorneys because I feel like we've had a resolution on this in the recent past.
Right.
Can't 17-year-olds register 90 days before Election Day?
Yes, and we.
Yes, 17-year-olds can register 90 days before Election Day.
Well,
As
maybe
long
in
as they're
your
18
letter,
by
you might
election
say that to this person. Okay.
I was just,
For
because I
the next
remember
person-
the
next
student
time there's
representatives
17.
were doing a registration drive at the high school.
Right. The other interesting thing is that one of the addresses was, I believe, probably a person who lives at Hope Cottage.
Yes.
And if we have a relation, and we've had other kind of bundling issues from Hope Cottage before, and it might be just good to talk to them about this one so that they understand as well as the voter understands what's happened.
Okay.
Thanks.
We put those 2 in T, and these 2 in X.
And 3.
Yep. So the next reject code is Z. The voter failed to sign the ballot return envelope. A vote by mail ballot shall not be counted if the voter failed to properly execute the declaration on the envelope with a valid signature. And all of these voters received a cure letter, and there are 43 of them. A cure letter that none of them responded, and
And then we called and
if they had a phone number or email on there, they were called or emailed. and we left voicemails this year.
Do you have any record of how many like that came in and they did come and tour?
Yes, but not handy.
Yeah, that's okay. But like,
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious as to how many people actually do it.
Okay, we can do that over the break and
Maybe.
give you statistics.
It may be a little longer.
Cookies are sad. That one has a witness signature and a return address.
Jamie,
Yeah.
I understand that you can register at 17, but if you show up before you're 18, you still can't vote.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay.
And our system identifies those. So our system identifies that if somebody turns 18 this year on April 2nd, we would not have sent them a ballot because they were 18 on election day. So we get them and we can see who is registered as under 18. And if election day is before their birthday, then we don't send them a ballot.
If I went to lose that, they'd have to look at my birthday and that's the registration.
If they went to LUSAC, you wouldn't be in the system, and so they would vote a question ballot.
So I wouldn't be able to tell that because I don't know who we called and who we didn't.
Oh, okay. We can't tell from our database who we called and who we didn't call, so we don't know how many.
Because it's on the envelope, which is
It's
strong
on
in
the
the vault.
envelope, which is now strong in the vault, so we can't tell how many we hear based on phone calls.
This person signed, did that signature not match with?
We probably missed it, it's no witness line.
Those are witnesses.
Or did you sign it the wrong one? No, it signed on the email before you were on. No, it's a signature.
Some of these envelopes have the voter's name printed and some don't. Are the blank ones that people showed up at a vote center to get a new envelope, or what's the difference? I mean, for example, we reject this ballot, we have no idea who we're rejecting, which is fine, but we don't get to send them a letter that says they didn't get counted. This one, we knew who we were rejecting. This person signed it, it wasn't signed, so that's clearly not, I mean, that person could have been out of town, or it could have been an elderly person who could have made a mark if she put an X there, or whatever, that would work. Yeah.
So the barcodes that are really narrow this was a replacement ballot.
Got it.
So this person received a replacement ballot. This envelope, the barcode was damaged, and so this was, we had to put it in a different envelope with a new barcode because the envelope was damaged. And if it would have had a signature on it, we would have cut and pasted. We do art around here.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong. I was just kind of curious.
Jamie, I was just going to confirm the 90 days before the 18th birthday.
Thanks.
That was it.
And how many of these were in Z1?
There were 43, and we think we found one that accidentally signed on the witness line, so that would be 42 if the signatures match.
And all were sent here letters.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
And that is what me, thank you very much. I should. Thank you. Jamie?
Yeah.
What about this one? Where
So I would say that was a witness. It looks like the voter's name was Evan Putt, and it looks like this person's name starts with an R. Rod. Evan R. Okay, we can look at that one too.
Okay, just that, because his
Middle initials are,
Yeah.
how many does that make now?
Make 41.
That would make 41 if that one is much.
I don't think it, oh, it's
Just
the same.
another one.
Look.
In that category.
So it'd be 40.
Yeah. Okay, so we're down to 40, and this would get you back to 43 depending on signature verification. The next reject code is Z1. This is the no sig match on ballot return envelope. There are 388 of these this year.
387. We have
Oh,
another here.
387. Somebody has brought in their peer letter. A vote by mail ballot shall not be counted if the voter failed to properly execute the declaration on the envelope with a valid signature. And a valid signature is compared to signatures in the voter registration file. And it's valid if it includes a cluster of shared characteristics to those on file. And so again, there's 387 this year. For reference, there were 602 in 2024, 623 in 2023, and 692 in 2022. And so we believe that the calling, the text appear, and our new database are working to bring this number down.
So were these done by AI or were these done by people?
Well,
The signature matches?
we don't have AI to do signature matches. No, okay.
So these were done by hand, by?
Two humans looked at everything. And honestly, four, because two signature verification workers who were trained, they're trained annually, looked, and then Amy and Liz from the core team audited and cured if they believed there was a match. And these voters were all sent cure letters, and these voters, if they left their phone number or email address, were called or emailed. Do you want me to pass them around, or?
That was down here.
They're looking at the three.
There'll be three more.
They're looking at the three no saves.
What order are they in?
Alphabetical.
It's like alphabetical.
They're alphabetical.
So, well, there is something when we get to how do we make choices. And we've talked about this before, and I don't see anything we can do today if you sent cure letters. Did we send cure letters to all these people?
We sent cure letters to all these people, and if they provided a phone number or email address, we called or emailed them.
We also
Right.
sent a reminder text on ballot tracks.
We also
Right.
sent a reminder text on ballot tracks if they signed up for ballot tracks.
Yeah. So how many of these, can you tell me, were because they would have registered at a time where their signature would be on microfilm and not on your electronic database? Did we find something like that before?
It's my understanding that back in 2018, when we went to this program, the municipality worked with the state to digitize many of what they had on microfilm to get them into the database. So we have signatures on file for all of these people, and they were not a match. And I was going to say something else, but I forgot. We have signatures on file for all of them. We worked with the state to digitize what they had.
Yeah, and it may well be the Z2 rather than the Z1 issue. I don't know how many you're going to present to us on Z2, but so to the attorneys here, I'm just concerned that if we did an analysis on these, we may find out that we are in essence prejudicing older voters, either older because we didn't keep a signature in a database, but we have a signature on that, so I'm not too worried about that, or older because people's signatures change as they get older. And we'll talk about it with Z2, because I think it was more a Z2 problem than a Z1 problem.
So also with the signatures, because of automatic voter registration with the DMV signatures come into the database. So if their signature has changed over time, both our system and the DMV would catch their signatures change over time. And we had a database designed in 2023, built in 2024, and so we're using it for the first time this year, where we can filter and keep signatures on file. In the event that we would only get one from the state, we could have more in our own system that we've received previously. And we do see the characteristics are the same. They might be shakier, but the characteristics are the same.
Yeah. So when I signed for this on my ID, so this is presumably a signature that you've got in the database for me. Is that signature collected with one of those stupid electronic pens that never look like my signature, or is it collected with a real pen?
Which is why we built a database.
The answer is
Because it's people just sign differently with electronic.
that crazy electronic pen never looks like my signature.
We have very few of those anymore because of the database.
Okay. I'm just worried in a close election that somebody's going to tell us we did it wrong and prejudice folks, that sort of thing. So anyway, thank you.
I have to commend the department. You've cut this 50%. And no sig match was always your Achilles heel. And so you've cut it 50%. And at some point, the voter has to have the responsibility. And you notify them and you give them an opportunity to correct the problem. And you shouldn't have to go door to door begging people to cure.
Thanks. Yeah, we tried very hard this year, and we're excited to see the number drop significantly. And that's why I led off with previous years and noting the database that potentially helped us bring that number down, as well as we are able to keep our own signatures, more of our own signatures.
Could I ask one other question about your numbers? It'd be very interesting for you to take the numbers of the folks who were rejected this time and compare it to the same list of the people who were rejected the last couple of times to see if there's a particular group that we really need to send another letter to cure this or something along those lines. Because I think we did send a letter explaining to people last time why they were rejected. And presumably gave them some way to cure for the future. At least I hope they did. But it'd be interesting to know what really brought it down. And if there's kind of a group of people who are doing it. And I understand what was just said about it's not your job to go door to door and it's the voter's responsibility. But my only slight disagreement with that is that we've adopted a system for voting that does not require a face-to-face verification before there's a ballot signed. And there's and so by relying on signatures, if there happens to be a pattern of the same people being rejected either time, it may be worth at least another letter. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm maybe 40% of the way through this trade. Take a good time to finish it. I'm maybe halfway through the tray now, and I've found, I don't know, 6 or so where there's a legible printing of the witness, has the same last name as the voter, and witness has the signature. Could we have verified the witness signature as being a voter? And then, is that making too much of an assumption that the actual voter voted the ballot? But I know we've allowed, I forget, you've told me, husband and wife ballots where they signed the wrong one, and they mix it up and then they count them anyway. Is this a case where we could verify the signature of the witness, or are we, I'm just thinking through, are we skewing? Is that being unfair to everybody else? Maybe is my question.
I think the answer lies in that the code doesn't give that option to us. Yes, if husband and wife vote each other's ballot and we catch it, which means it kind of has to be in the same batch that somebody's working on, we can say household, good. But at this point, the code says that the signature is compared to signatures in the voter registration file and is valid, and it includes a cluster of shared characteristics. It doesn't provide us the opportunity to, and then we send a cure letter if it's not a match. We don't look at the witness signature unless the voter has voted and made a mark. That's the only reason we look at witness signatures.
Lauren, having been in a situation where I could have voted a kid's ballot or my wife's ballot, for example, if they're out of town and hadn't been mailed, I think the signature requirement is actually a good thing.
Yeah, I do too. It's just a quick run through. Probably we're a valid voter, but there's a way to cure it, and people just need to accept that. Come in and cure it. Or
I'm just worried that people don't understand that because we can't have somebody look up their signature before they vote to make sure. I ran across a signature that I had in 1973 in a school yearbook, and I'd love to see what your machine would do with that. Because it's very different than my signature today, but it was 6 months before I registered to vote, so it would be very interesting to see how many people are serially denied. In other words, they're regular voters, they're good voters, but they're denied because the signature is just, it's the same problem every time.
yes, these people who have legible witness signatures, witness people signed, my question is, should we verify the witness as a signature?
The witness's signature is not relevant unless there's a text. I mean, a lot of people seem to think that they all have to be witnessed, but unless there's a text.
Okay, Jamie, one of the things I wanted to say is that I am thrilled that we got this number. It's almost a third less from last year's election. So that is truly exciting. I understand that we have not been able, that they can't figure out how to make a specific dedicated election office phone, what do I want, so that you know who the caller is, that we had hoped to be able to do. Have you come up with, or you or staff come up with any other ideas that might improve this for the next election?
Well, I think we just got the numbers recently, right? Because we're just calculating in the past few days.
You've been working on them.
They were not able to do a number that was dedicated to MOA elections, but they did leave voicemails.
Right.
So I think that was a concern in the past, that they didn't know it was MOA elections calling, and this time we did leave voicemails, so they did know that it was MOA elections calling.
But we're still not calling after hours, and that was a problem last time, but we also realized we couldn't do that because of the time frame.
Right.
What else worked?
I think all methods work. We have many people that we got in touch with did come in and cure. They did do text to cure. We had a couple people call us and say, actually, I didn't vote. And so calling and emailing did work. You'll see that in the next map.
Yeah.
And so I think it's all working. And at this point, we don't have any other ideas, but we can continue to look at other jurisdictions and communicate with other jurisdictions and see if they know of other ideas that work.
Can I put forward another idea, which is, it's because our elections are months, if not years apart, that if somebody's vote was rejected last time because their signature didn't match, that we send it with the ballot that goes out the second time, send a second letter saying, oh, by the way, you might recall we rejected your ballot last time because the signature didn't match. We'd encourage you to come in and vote in person so this doesn't happen again. And the only reason why I say that is because we don't know what the pattern is. We don't know if it's aging voters or voters, whose signatures have changed or that sort of thing. And it probably wouldn't hurt to remind people. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
And I know it's extra work. I don't know if you have statutory authority to do it, but that's about the only other thing I can think of besides calling after hours.
I don't know that we can tell them how to vote, but I think we can look at statistics of if they've received a cure letter or if they had been rejected for multiple years.
I have
But-
that number. It's 52.
52 of them have received
From
more-
2023,
got a cure letter in 2023.
from 23 to 24, 52.
From 23 to 24, there were 52.
Thank you. That helps. So that's about 1/6, or actually about 1/7 the number. Yeah.
So, and our own signatures go to the state and we get our own signatures back. So just to clarify that their signatures are updating every year. We're not getting your signature from 1973 and trying to compare it to your signature today. We're getting your signatures from the last few
Right.
years.
Okay.
What we do when we're talking to the media is, what was I gonna say? Why does it pop out of my head so fast? That if they have had signature problems, that they can go to a vote center and have the vote center check their ID. because the vote centers have instructions on how to handle somebody who comes in and just wants their, and we do have many, many, many people that do that.
I noticed we don't have a category for name change that we've dealt with in the past. Here, maybe it's under other, under Virginia Code 11, but, so we've clearly made some progress there too, right?
Well, if their name is changed, we still have the first half of their name to compare.
And we do follow up with the state.
And we do follow up with the state to confirm that the name has changed.
Madam Chair, I unfortunately have a 4 o'clock call on this, and I know that just in terms of what we've got in front of us, the one that was contentious with C2 and number 9
Right.
before.
Can we say that we're dealt with these? Or I'm still excited. Can we get rid of these for the next special?
I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
Need to make your day, we have 0 procedures.
Yay.
I'm making your day, we have 0 Z2s.
Cool.
We have 0 of the number 2.
0 numbers.
Correct. So the next one is 3 ballot voted by someone other than the voter.
Oh,
So again, there's a sheet attached that tells a little story about how we arrived at this detail. And then
how many?
11.
there's 11. Oh, there was some. Oh, I was also going to say that if it was a no-sig match, or we suspected that somebody voted for they're all voted by somebody other than a voter, there's on the sheet, there's signatures. We've captured the signatures for that person to show the difference between how the voter typically signs and how it was signed this year.
These have already been looked at by people.
Yeah, these were looked at by the people. They were no-sig matches according to the staff who is trained to look for signature matches, and then in some situations they said we suspect. In some situations, the voter called or emailed us to tell us that they didn't vote their ballot, and in other situations, as we were trying to find the answer of why it wasn't a match.
Some of them are painfully obvious.
So all of that to say, in addition to the 2
Signature verification team.
in the signature verification team, the core team has also looked at it.
So there's kids in way of college.
So it's the
same angle, but-
So it's gonna stay, so this will be 41.
Okay.
So we'll cure.
Do you guys agree with me on this one?
Yeah, yeah, and she already said. We confirmed. Okay. Put that one in the notes there. I'm trying to update the master.
In this case, Jamie, was there any cure possibility here? I mean, it looks like mom signed for everybody.
Well, we don't send your letters because in these situations, because if we do, then we're telling them how to game the system. We're gonna send them a cure letter and then they're gonna cure it and then that signature is gonna become in part of the database. It's gonna be included as a good signature if they were to cure it, and so then we're
Yeah.
counting ballots that were
Well,
potentially fraudulently voted.
right. This is where we sent detectives before.
Yeah, and if you would like for us to do that again, we can do that again.
When everyone gets through this, looking at these, let's talk about some of these signatures.
What?
Let's talk about some of these signatures.
Can we get the POA ones? I'll just, since Mead is on time here, the next one is ballot voted by power of attorney. And this is, there's 3 of these, and it does indicate here voter power of attorney is not acceptable, and power of attorney is not acceptable for voting in federal law, in state law, and in municipal law.
If the power of attorney knew it, they could probably hold the voter's hand, scratch an X, and then sign it, and they would all be fine.
And do we have any Tims?
We have 110 that is a previous election envelope receipt. And we do our best to make sure it's a previous election, because some people say their envelopes.
Were there any others?
Nope.
These are different.
Yeah, keep them separate, those 3.
We just moved on, so these
Oh,
were voted
okay.
by power of attorney.
Number 9.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So this is the previous election, so.
Hey, can I ask you about this one? So you got a note back saying the person no longer votes in Anchorage, but somebody voted the ballot. The signature looked more like somebody else named that, yeah. All right, so that's a possible.
This is the one. It's last year's
Oh.
envelope.
And we take out the ballot.
Did we have any non-citizen voter issues come up like in number 11?
Save that.
The envelope.
You're aware.
Save the envelope and use it.
Either they or did that, which I do occasionally.
All of the voters who receive a ballot are in the voter registration database. And they're returned, so I would say no. I mean, you have an ID in order to get into the voter registration database.
Okay, and these 3 go together and this one is by itself.
This is 2.
Okay, so these were the voted by others. These are the power of attorney.
Yes.
And as I said, it says not acceptable.
Can you count those and make sure 11 are still there?
Correct. The power of attorney could, yeah, if the voter can mark an X, the power of attorney will. The power of attorney could assist the holder of the vote.
And there's the one. Okay, we're almost through the easy ones. And because of the time frame for me, real quickly, there are two of those that looked like they were forged by someone that wasn't even in the household. Does everybody agree with that?
The 11?
Of the 11, yes.
We don't know if they're in the household.
I haven't seen
Yeah, you did. The 11.
The 11 voted by someone other than the voter. There was,
Most of them looked like they were signed by someone in the household.
sure. I don't know.
You had
Yeah. But, okay.
two of them, it looked to me like they were signed by someone other than
Entirely?
someone. Is that what
it. You're saying there were 11 of those,
there were?
not code 11.
No, but number 3, reject code 3. There were 11 reject code 3s. It looked like 9 of them, to me, were signed by someone else in the household.
Right,
But it
and
looked
then
like
so like somebody, maybe
two
this
of them.
ballot was mailed to me, but the old voter moved out and I voted it anyway, so
That's
yes.
what it looks like to me.
Yes.
They have no resemblance whatsoever and no name,
Yes,
no same name matches.
right.
Last name, sorry. Did everybody else get that same impression? Me?
I got the impression that both the ones that were in the household and the couple that were outside, all are worth at least a visit. And the only reason why I'd say it's worth at least a visit because if somebody doesn't answer the questions right, the detective may want to refer this to the city attorney. All of them, you know, I mean, sometimes it's like a cop would pull you over and say you were 5 miles over the limit, but we understand you're racing to get to the hospital because your wife's in labor. You know, and sometimes there's an extenuating circumstance where you can say, okay, this was a simple mistake, and sometimes it wasn't. Somebody can say, my daughter airplane was caught up at Prudhoe and she couldn't return in time, so I did it, and I guess I shouldn't have done it, all right? But ideally, it's a small enough number, and there's 2 or 3 clusters, so it's about 4 different phone calls to do that. I'm more worried about the power of attorney one here, which may have been a confusion. See, on the power of attorney issues that we've got here, it's really 2 different kinds. Sometimes when I was power of attorney for my mother, I always would sign POA, and it looks like if she had voted in this jurisdiction, that would have rejected it, even though she might not have been able to make an X or whatever. But this is one where there's at least one here where there was a signature, two actually, where there was a signature of somebody else. Actually, somebody else, one of them who's well known, he was a photographer for, you know, his name was in the paper almost every day, where I'm suspecting that somebody wrote, wife unable to sign, it says LUSAC BC. What is that? Election Center, Voter Center. Yeah, so.
So in this situation, the witness is a vote center worker.
Right.
And we went back to the vote register, and the power of attorney put an X in the vote register for this person, and then signed for the voter
Was the voter
in
present?
The voter was present, and, but
Yeah.
the
So,
power of attorney signed an X in the voter register and signed the ballot.
right. So in that one, well, for what you were asking, Madam Chairman, I think it's worth to have the detective at least check into all of them, right? For the 3 POA ones, I would recommend that we pull out the cone, or what's that, what's the person's name? Wilson? Yeah, that Wilson probably was given assistance and it didn't work out properly. And the voter was there, it's signed by one of our employees, and I would just, kind of would suggest that that's a government mistake, not a person's mistake, and not the voter's mistake. And these two, I would support that. And for the ones that you mentioned, I would recommend that all be rejected and all be investigated.
Those are the 3 POAs.
My
This is
follow-up
the
question on this,
Previous.
my follow-up question on this is that last year, we referred 2 of the, this reject code numbers to prosecution for investigation with discretion. Never mind, my notes.
Yeah.
What was the outcome of
We
that
don't,
eventually?
we haven't heard back from anybody on the status of that. I know that it was given to the prosecutor said these belong with the police, and so we then handed them to chief police, and we haven't heard from them on the status. I would say we have a new municipal prosecutor.
Oh. Do anybody have any strong feelings about those? We'll discuss them later then. All right, you're through with your side. Anybody have any questions? Official break time is
Break time now.
done. Thank you very much.